Thanks. It's great to be back here. And first, a quick shout out to all my friends in the class of '97. Thanks for. I know it's hard to make it out this early, but thanks for coming out. Appreciate it. I want to take a step back in time a little bit and talk about a problem I've been working on for the last 25 years. The carbon and climate challenge is really one that is one of the bigger ones that we're facing, and I'm going to take you back in time a little bit. Starts 4.6 billion years ago. You have the formation of the sun. You've got the first real form of energy in nuclear energy that's basically fusing together hydrogen atoms to form helium and then releasing that energy. It's beaming it down to the Earth, and you're starting to beam down, and it takes about 8 minutes to get there. It's 93 million miles. We've been given something amazing that comes to the Earth and starts to generate or starts to deliver power to us. Now, the Earth adapted fairly well, and plants started to evolve. You had photosynthesis. You were able to transform that energy into other forms of energy. And eventually, plants and animals died in the ocean. They went down. They settled in the seabed. And you had intense temperature and pressure that formed what are now known as fossil fuels, but you formed coal, you formed natural gas, you formed oil. So all these old fossil fuels that we talk about as being so bad today are actually just solar energy that was originally nuclear energy that started a long time ago. And it's been stored for over 300 million years. And it's a very convenient and available form, and that's why it's been so effective at driving economies, driving lifestyles, really changing the way we live over the last 100 and so years since the Industrial Revolution. So the much maligned fossil fuels are not really a problem of what they are. They're originally solar energy. It's a timing issue. So you've taken something that's taken 300 million years to be created, and we're releasing it over a 150-year period. So about 2 million times the rate, and that's what's thrown the system more or less out of balance. And you don't need to look at everything on here. Just pay attention to two things on this graph, the black line and the green line. That's where 80% of this rapid release of carbon comes from. It's coal and petroleum. This is all the sources of energy and where it goes to residential, commercial, industrial transportation, and how you get that energy and where it comes from. The fossil fuels that are really problematic are coal and petroleum. And so we need to change the way we're dealing with this and moderate that rate at which we're burning these. So how do you do it? Nuclear power has its interesting challenges. A lot of people go straight to renewable energy as a phenomenal tool and a great gift that we've been given. So renewable energy has formed. There's a great learning rate curve. It's down and to the right. You got a lot of money behind this. You've got 90% drop in the cost of wind and 80% drop in the cost of solar just over the last decade. All good, right? This is all really good stuff. But let me put it in a little bit of perspective so we can think about this. I was convinced a decade ago that it was all about solar and all about renewables. And the deeper you get into this, the more complicated this problem becomes. So that's on the left, you have all of the solar and wind that's been built around the world. It's 450 gigawatts. Think about that as $1 trillion of solar and wind that's been built around the world over the last, since we started doing it 50 years ago. Now what it is that basically, if you move it over to the right, it's that thin little sliver of the global energy, worldwide global energy supply. So you've got coal, nuclear, natural gas, oil, and you got this very thin sliver. So phenomenal success, $1 trillion of spend, and we haven't yet begun to make a meaningful impact on this rather large system. And we've got this other challenge that carbon continues to rise. So when I first started to look at, well, if you go back all the way to the far left side before the Industrial Revolution, we were at 270 parts per million of CO2 in the atmosphere. When I was born, it was around 320. By the time I started to focus on the problem in 1990, it was about 350 parts per million. The goal and what we have to do is stabilize at 450. Now the problem is we've just blown past 400. So we're in a really, really interesting spot now where we've got to stabilize basically climate at a 2 degree centigrade increase. We need to basically limit this to 450 parts per million. And it's not going to be that simple to do. So I started I built what was at the time the largest solar plant in the world, 5 square miles in the Mojave Desert, 450 megawatts of power. Since then, at Google, we invested about $3 billion into renewable energy projects, solar, wind. We did the largest wind project in sub-Saharan Africa, largest solar project in sub-Saharan Africa. And I left Google because I didn't think you could make enough of a difference in this problem, because this is a $1 trillion problem. It's not measured in billions. And so in order to actually change over and to do this, and it's also one that seems simpler. You can tell somebody who hasn't been in the struggle very long, because they say, oh, it's all, solar's great, it's going to solve everything. That's what I thought a decade ago. It's a really complicated system. So this is a lot of work from McKinsey, from the International Energy Administration, based on some of the work in modeling we did at Google. But there's good news and bad news here. The good news is there's $1 trillion a year of economic opportunity for people who are smart enough to think about how to help solve this problem. And the challenge is you cannot do it with solar and wind. That's the easy part. That's the easy part. You've got to bring in nuclear. You've got to bring in carbon capture and sequestration for natural gas. If you try to just do it with solar and wind, you can solve about half of the problem, and really the easy half. So my sort of call to action as I close down here is to make sure people understand that this is a much bigger problem than people think. I like to say that some of the challenge, the far left and the far right, are both equally guilty of selling either false hope or the fact that there's no problem or no challenge. And it's a really, really meaty problem, but there are some phenomenal solutions out there, and I'm hoping that other people in here are going to join in this interesting crusade, because there's a lot of money out there to be made. So I want to tap into entrepreneurial instincts, get people motivated, get people excited, and nobody should feel comfortable that this is going to get solved without a lot of help from across all the spectrums of people. Engineers, technologists, there's a lot of opportunity there. Please join and help. Consider this a big recruiting call. All right. Thank you very much. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.